3, 4, 5.
I can barely hear you this morning, Todd. I can hear you, but it's not good. I don't know what the problem is. That's all right. I can hear you enough. Just speak up when you want to give me the cue, and then have a hand signal if we need it. Okay. Good morning and welcome to Newsmakers. If you commute regularly on I-71, the first thing that probably comes to your mind right now is the orange barrels. But there's something much more important going on. For a year and a half, citizens of both Ohio and northern Kentucky have been studying options for using the I-71 corridor as a spine for a new mass transit system. Stretching between the greater Cincinnati airport on the southeast and southwest and Mason, Ohio on the northeast, a new system could link the two most vital growth areas, the two blossoming edge cities in our metropolitan region. Through its deliberative process, the study team has identified light rail as its primary option, but has decided to also evaluate the possibility of using a monorail system in northern Kentucky. To discuss these options, we are joined this morning by three guests. Warner Moore is the Director of the Corridor Studies for the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, OKI, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. Bernie Moorman is a Kenton County Fiscal Court Commissioner and the Chairman of the Oversight Committee for the I-71 Corridor Study. Bill Butler is the President of Corporex and a major proponent of adopting a monorail for at least part of the corridor. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Morning, Dan.
Morning.
Warner, we all know that I-71, our interstate system, can be very crowded. What are we looking at in the future, say 10, 20 years down the road, if nothing happens?
Okay, Dan, first, if I could just correct your introduction a minute. We have not selected light rail yet. We are still in the process of selecting the locally preferred alternative for the corridor. And there's no question that many people feel that light rail is the way to go, but there are also other people who have other opinions for different modes. So we have not selected yet, but light rail is the one that's getting a lot of publicity.
And it does seem that it's sort of bubbled up to the top.
Yes, it is one of the finalists, let's put it that way.
Okay.
We are projecting that by the year 2020, we are going to be at or very close to gridlock conditions on I-71. So what we are trying to do is get ahead of the curve, if you will, so that we have a system in place that can maintain the mobility and the economic viability of this metropolitan area that's needed for us to maintain and grow as we feel it should. So what we're trying to do is to get a system in place that can reduce the air quality problems that we're experiencing, and as you know, we're a non-attainment area in regards to air quality, and to provide that alternative for the folks in the region who are commuting to and from work each day.
Bernie, you've been involved with sort of the community-based people process. Where do we stand in this process? And I guess I was jumping a little bit ahead. I guess I had focused on light rail as having been selected, and I apologize for that. But where are we in the process? What's been accomplished, and what still needs to be accomplished?
Well, you know, one of the major accomplishments of the effort up to date has been the cooperation of the communities, the businesses that have been involved. It's a wonderful experience. For instance, one of the great successes of the effort to date is the fact that all the cities, the 4 counties, 2 state governments, and of course the federal government, have all formed this unofficial partnership in a way of contributing money to pay for the cost of the study. That's a symptom that we have experienced so far that's so wonderful, and that is the cooperation that we have.
And that's an unusual thing sometimes around here, especially since we're in a area where divided by state lines.
Right.
Getting that sort of regional cooperation is sometimes difficult. So you're saying this is a concrete situation where it really is working?
It's working. It's working. Yes, I'm not saying there are no glitches, you know, and indeed there are, but that's okay. Honest debate, a good hard discussion, sometimes a little dose of anger, helps make the project better. We're going to come out of this situation, I feel, with a very good alternative. And as has been explained by you and Warner, light rail is one of those. We also have busways. We also have high occupancy vehicles, it's hard to say. And of course, now we've included monorail. And we're going to study those, and we're going to look at them very, very much in detail and compare and see what is the best mode that serves the people of this community in terms of moving them around within it in a good, efficient fashion.
Just to define a few things, light rail, and I don't know, maybe the experts will jump on me for this one too, but I think the simplest way to understand it is sort of a modernized street railway trolley car system. Modernized.
Okay.
Okay, modernized. But anyway, busways. Explain what busways are. This is more than just designating a lane for buses.
Right. It's actually constructing a road system for just buses. Only buses can traverse on this road system so that they can go through, if there's a tie-up on I-71, the buses can continue to go on their way on their separate road system. And that is basically what busways are. Of course, with that, you're going to have stations, and it operates very similar to a rail system, where you will have stations along the corridor where people get on and get off of the buses and then find their way to their destinations.
Bill, the option that maybe has caught people's imagination is the option of monorail. It's one of the things being studied. There are many things being studied. Why, you've been pushing this. Why do you think this is a good idea?
I've been pushing it since 1981. First time Northern Kentucky ever introduced the concept of an elevated rail, which is what I like to refer to as opposed to monorail.
Okay.
Most of the population can identify with the concept monorail because they've seen it in various places. But really the concept that we're talking about is elevated rail versus at-grade rail, as you described, or light rail. And we're speaking about that and advocating that for the section between the airport and the CBD, the Cincinnati Business District.
Why?
I
What's
think it's extremely important that in addition to moving people, that when we spend this kind of money, we ought to do something to move the community forward. We are in competition every day with respect to growing our community, creating jobs, setting forth our future, and establishing quality of life. Certainly something of a sleek, elevated rail system is a symbol of progress, in addition to its ability to move, people from here to there. And it's an attraction, if you will, to the city, and it puts sort of a new spin on the city as to where you're going in the future. Where is this community going? Now, let me go a little further, Dan, to answer your question. Well, on the Kentucky side, we have different logistics, if you will. We have different topographical conditions, steep grades, situations of that nature. We have different population focuses to deal with. And I'm very strong in the belief that the elevated systems, in addition to doing the type of thing that we want to do for economic development, are also going to end up less expensive by reason of the fact that the topography is such that it would require lots of bridges and walls and storm drainage features and cuts and fills and those kinds of things, which have to be dealt with.
What we're talking about then is this elevated system running from the airport to downtown.
Right.
Warner, let me just turn to you as sort of,
Okay.
Is this proposal for this sort of system as opposed to a street grade light rail system, is it significantly different to engineer? Is it significantly more expensive or less expensive? Bill was mentioning that it may fit the terrain nicely. What, from sort of a technical point of view, an engineering point of view, not making a judgment, but just what are the things that have to be factored in here?
Each particular mode have their advantages and disadvantages. And what we are about in this current next phase, or we'll be starting will be to look at those advantages and disadvantages of the various technologies. The two specifically would be the comparison between light rail and the elevated rail for the Northern Kentucky, and in fact find out exactly what the differences would be in cost, if there would be any, and how we could best apply the best system to the Northern Kentucky segment of the quarter. So I don't want to prejudge what the study is going to say, but the fact is that is what we are going to be about starting early this summer, or as soon as possible, to actually do that analysis to find out that exact question that you're asking, Dan.
Bernie, from a sort of a different perspective, you're an elected official in Northern Kentucky. Bill has put out an image that this would not only serve the transportation needs, but sort of galvanize a vision for Northern Kentucky, sort of give it a symbol. How does that ring with the people in the community that you've talked to about this?
Well, it does do that very thing. Not necessarily monorail, but a modern, sleek transportation mechanism. As we're Johnny-come-latelys. Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati, study of a mass transit system using the rail as the answer. We're Johnny-come-latelies. St. Louis, Dallas, Cleveland, Portland. I believe there are 18 communities in this country that use light rail as a mass transit system. So we have their experiences to learn from. So we should definitely learn from their experiences. And every case that I've been able to analyze has elevated the attitude of the community, just as Bill said he wants this project to do for Northern Kentucky. It has done that. Whatever they put in system, usually light rail systems, has elevated the quality of life, the feeling about their community moving forward, being a progressive community. St. Louis, some representatives came and spoke to our committee, about a year ago now. And the first thing he came out of his mouth, he says, we're better than Cincinnati. And you know why we're better than Cincinnati? It's because we have this rail system in place, and now we can offer a mass transit mechanism that challenges Chicago, LA, San Francisco. And he, in his mind, has put the community of St. Louis into that level of community life. And he said, we're better than Cincinnati. And from that perspective, and he's right, we need to get a system in place that does give the community a feeling that their community is a progressive one, and it is a definite statement about who and what we are as a community. And I stress the word community. And this is really the dilemma that we're all going to have to face, Bill and Warner, myself, the members of the committee, the members of the community involved in general. And that is that we got to do the best mechanism for the community in the sense of first moving people about and making it a significant tool in terms of transportation, and yes, support economic development, because in turn, good economic development turns around and makes our community a better community for all the citizens. And that's what we have to accomplish with this task.
Bill, a real practical question. If you run a elevated system of some type from the airport to downtown Cincinnati, and that's the section of the corridor, as I understand it, that's really going to grow in terms of traffic challenges in the next 20 years or so. So doing something in that section of the corridor really makes a lot of sense. What happens when you get to downtown Cincinnati? Are we talking about will people have to get off of one system, go on to another one?
Oh, yeah, exactly. They would have to get off of the elevated rail and then move into the light rail if they're going up to the northeast corridor. But in the Cincinnati plan for the riverfront area, there's an intermodal center, which is a significant proposed junction, if you will, already in the idea. And not only connect the elevated rail with the light rail, but I suppose buses and other kinds of rail would enter in and out of this intermodal center.
Okay.
And that's could be sort of a focal point of the riverfront development if it's done in the sort of like the old railroad stations were, and it's done in the form of art with an art form and a high level of architecture. That's an opportunity.
And that's one of the things that's been built into the proposals by the planners out of Pittsburgh for the riverfront area.
That's correct. It's part of the Fort Washington Way.
One of the real practical things that we all have to look at is the federal government budget is getting tighter and tighter. What about funding the next stage of this study? Is this a done deal? Are we going to have the money to do that analysis that you were talking about? And where are we in getting this thing funded?
Well, Congressman Bunning has been the champion of this project, if you will, and he has made a request to Congress for funding to look at the elevated rail system. And we anticipate that we will get that funding.
How much is that?
He has requested $500,000 from the as part of the Federal Transit Administration allocation to look at that, and that is adequate to take care of the analysis of the elevated rail. The actual next step beyond that is the preliminary engineering and the environmental impact work of whatever our locally preferred alternative is. We have received that funding, so that funding is in place, ready to move that step forward once we determine the locally preferred alternative, what the community as a whole wants, or what combination is best for the I-71 corridor.
So we're talking about, in effect, gap funding. You need $500,000 to do the last part of this analysis, but the next piece of the pie is already in place.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, you were mentioning Congressman Bunning being a supporter. I'm going to turn to our only elected official here because I think it's the only fair way to do this. Not all of our local elected federal officials. Congressman Shabbat, I think, opposed funding early on. Where do we stand with our local delegation on supporting this study?
Well, let me start off with the positive. Rob Portman has been also a significant supporter up to this point. Initially, he was not, and I think because of the issue and the significance to the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky community in terms of what Bill has explained, significance to economic development, transportation for the average citizen, better system. He has come and now supports the project, and we're very pleased with his involvement. And I'm very impressed with his staff and the knowledge they have of the issue. You know, we go into Washington, we did that in February. We talked about financing and his support for it through Congress, and they were very much up with the issue. I'm very confident that Rob Portman will continue to be a major player in terms of congressional. Steve Shabbat's another issue. The door's open for him. We hope he can see that the value of this system, and we encourage him and his staff to get more involved, and they have. They've now started to come to some of our meetings, and that's very crucial because once they get involved and see what is going on, they will not identify it as a pork barrel project as they have in the past, but a very significant, important issue for this total community.
Well, we're out of time, and I'm sorry about that. Next time Steve's on, we'll ask him that question. We'll have you back as this process goes on because this is an important regional issue for all of us. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Dan.
After the break, we will explore parents and community volunteers getting ready to pitch in and help the schools. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the past few weeks, we've heard about the hundreds of millions of dollars Cincinnati Public Schools need to repair old buildings. In the face of that sort of overwhelming estimate, some people are frozen into inaction. Others, however, are energized to dig in. And dig in is just what a group of volunteers plan to do on April the 19th. Two of the leaders of that effort are Sally Warner, who has had 4 children in Cincinnati Public Schools, and Byron Stallworth, co-chair of the Spring Cleanup and an employee of Keep Cincinnati Beautiful. Thanks for being with us on Newsmakers.
Morning.
Sally, what sort of task? Obviously, you're not going to ask volunteers to get up and repair roofs or fix boilers. What sorts of things can people expect if they want to volunteer and pitch in and roll up their sleeves for the schools?
Well, I think this year especially we're doing it a little later, so we're hoping to do more outside tasks. Schools will be picking up trash on playgrounds and painting playground lines. They'll be going out into the community and picking up trash as well. Glad Bag has donated lots of trash bags, so we're going to have a big trash pickup. Some schools will be working inside, however. We're going to be doing some painting, some window cleaning. There are courtyards that people have cleaned up with other groups, and they are going to be planted on that day. So there's more of an outside slant this year, a little more outside work, but there'll be some inside work as well.
Well, if it's a nice day, that should be great.
It will be.
Okay. Byron, one of the most important things when you try to ask volunteers to come out is to make sure that you've got enough things to do and you can get everybody involved. How many volunteers can you really handle in this one-day cleanup effort?
Well, last year, 6,000 volunteers came out.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Some schools had over 100 people, right, Sally?
Some over 300, a couple schools over 300.
So, I mean, we can use as many hands as possible, and with there being outside work this year, which we anticipate good weather, there'll be plenty to do outside. Hopefully, we'd like to plant trees, so we'll make a request for folks that have trees that can make donations to the schools. If we had a couple trees per school, it would be nice that we could plant some trees for students at the school.
Now, is this a totally volunteer effort, or is this coordinated by the schools in cooperation with the schools so that the schools get the right things done, the things that really make the most sense at a particular school? Sally?
The schools have been very helpful this year in helping us organize. Diane Sackmeister has been our contact with the schools, but it is all volunteer. There are plant operators, janitors, secretaries, teachers, administrators at all levels coming out to work, along with the parents and students and community people. So no one is being paid for this day, and we really appreciate those people who work every day during the schools still coming out on this Saturday and helping us work.
Byron, there's a lot of stuff sitting on our table out here. I know this is not supposed to be an ad for any specific thing, but why is this stuff here? What does this represent?
We wanted to show the people that we've already had close to $40,000 worth of products donated for the schools. And we've got paint here. There's recycled paint from the Household Hazardous Waste Days that the county put on. And Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, we have reblended the paint. There's over 2,000 gallons of paint.
So this is also a recycling lesson.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we've got paint supplies from Keep Cincinnati Beautiful. Procter & Gamble has donated Cinch and Comet and Mr. Clean cases of it. Glad Bag, where I work from for Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, we were able to donate 80 cases of trash bags and Glad Bag hats. There's one for you.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Cover up my
Painters
head.
caps for painters caps for volunteers. We'll have some other toys there to give away. But Evans Landscaping, the City Department of Sanitation, has donated mulch, so schools will have mulch.
Is it still possible? We're still 2 weeks away from this event. Is it still possible for companies to get in touch with you?
Oh yeah, they can get in touch with us and call.
Okay, we'll be getting a number up in a few minutes. Sally, obviously there's the practical concern of cleaning up, of fixing up, of beautifying, of improving the schools. But it seems to me you get this many people out. There's also some other benefits from this for the schools in the long run in terms of community building and support for the schools. Is that a conscious part of this effort?
Yes, just besides the basic cleanup, I think we want to send a message to kids that we do care about the environment in which they're learning, and the community supports them when we support the teachers and principals who work there all the time. I also think that it's a chance for those groups that have sort of partnering with us, whether they're businesses or mentors or community councils, churches and synagogues. Many schools have a relationship with those organizations, and it's a chance for them to come out and work together. But it's also a chance for us to solicit more of that. There are, churches that really don't have any contact with a local school, and so it's a chance for them to come out on that day and begin to establish a relationship. So we invite other groups to come out besides the ones who've already signed up.
Byron, what sort of person can volunteer? I mean, does it have to be an adult? Does it have to be somebody connected to the schools? I think the answer to that's clear just from what Sally said. But what age range? Who can you take?
Well, you can bring children. There's stuff that we can do around the schoolyard, but any age group is able to participate in this cleanup. It's a phenomenal process where you can get people from the community like Sally was talking about. You can bring your children, or you can have your grandparents come. They can get involved in this type of project.
And Sally, if people do want to volunteer, they would like to find out where to go, how to get involved in this, is there somebody they can call?
Well, first of all, they could just show up at any school in their neighborhood on that day, or any school not in their neighborhood. Secondly, they could call the school. That would be a really nice idea, where they could call and find out, do I need to bring a paintbrush?
And the number is?
369-4610.
Okay.
They can call that number and be channeled out to a school, but they could also just call a school in their neighborhood as well, because we don't have enough brooms or rakes or paintbrushes for all the jobs that we need done. So you could call and find out what's happening at that school and bring whatever little, tool that might help out.
Byron, you were, I guess, involved in this last year?
Yes,
Was it fun?
it was incredible. I mean, I went to 3 schools, and it was chilly that day. It was really cold, so most of the activity was inside, painting and cleaning, washing windows. But the amount of people who came out last year were excited. They were rejuvenated about cleaning up the school, and that's what we're happy about.
Well, thank you. Good luck in 2 weeks, and I guarantee you we'll be there with our cameras to see how things go.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Thank you for being with us, and join us next Sunday when we'll try to make sense out of the Ohio Supreme Court ruling on school financing.